Hi friends, I welcome you all at Crack Grade B. In this video, we are going to discuss problems of dryland agriculture in India. In this video, we are going to discuss definitions, what are the issues, what are the technical constraints, what are the technical solutions, and what initiative government has taken for dryland agriculture in India. So first of all, what is the definition of dryland agriculture? Dry land agriculture refers to the cultivation of crops entirely under natural rainfall without irrigation. So remember this line. This line will tell you in a one line you can define the dry land agriculture. How? The crop entirely under natural rainfall without irrigation is known as the dry land agriculture. By this line we can say that it is a form of subsistence farming in the region where deficit of the soil moisture retard the growth of water consuming crops like rice and sugarcane. Why? Because in dryland farming you will get the soil moisture is not enough. Okay. The dryland area are characterized by the low and erratic rainfall and the no assured irrigation facilities. Dryland agriculture is important for the economy. How? As most of the coarse grain crops like pulses, oil seeds, raw cotton are grown on these lands. I will show you how much of percent of these crops grown in dryland area in India. Dryland area receives rainfall between 500 and 1200 mm. So this is the characteristics of the dryland agriculture. Now we will differentiate between the rain-fed farming and the dryland farming in terms of the constituents. Rainfall, if rainfall is less than 800, then it comes under the dryland farming. If rain-fed is more than 800, it comes under the rain-fed farming. Moisture availability, dryland farming short, rain-fed farming enough. Growing seasons less than 200, growing season more than 200 for rain-fed farming. Growing regions arid, semi-arid, as well as upland of sub-humid and humid regions, and humid and sub-humid regions comes under the rain-fed farming. Cropping system, single crop or intercropping or double cropping is the characteristics and the constituents of the rain-fed farming. Constraints, wind and water erosion, in this case water erosion. Why wind here? Because in dryland farming you are going to get some dry types of soil, so there is more and much chance of wind erosion in case of dryland farming. What are the types? Dry farming, if rainfall is less than 750 mm rainfall per year. In case of dryland farming, greater than 750 mm of rainfall per year. Rain-fed farming, if then the rainfall will be greater than 1150 mm of rainfall per year. So these are some types of dryland agriculture. Now there are some characteristics. Dryland farming and the rain-fed farming. In dry farming, rainfall is less than 750 mm. Generally, crop failure in this region is due to the prolonged dry spells during the crop period. It generally found in arid regions and the growing season is less than 75 days. What practices can be followed for prevention of crop failure in this dry farming? Actually, the moisture conservation is the most important part, and the moisture conservation practice are necessary for crop production. And what they do, emphasis is given on soil and water conservation, sustainable crop yields, and limited fertilizer use according to the soil moisture availability. In dryland farming, the rainfall is greater than 750 mm. Growing period is 750 to 120 days. And what are the reason? The reason is the prolonged dry spell, but less than this dry farming. So what are the preventive measures we can take in dryland farming? adequate drainage is required, especially for vertisoils. Actually, in this crop, the rainfall is greater than 750 mm. So, in some types of crop, you required some drainage types of arrangement. Rest main emphasis is also on given on soil and water conservation, sustainable crop yields, and limited use of fertilizer. In the case of rain-fed farming, this is totally different from all these farming systems. Under this rain-fed farming, the rainfall is more than 1150 mm, but crops are not subjected to soil moisture stress during the crop period. So, these are humid regions with growing crops. Okay. Distribution of dry land is a very important part. In this figure, you can see that this area is cold dry. It may be of Ladakh, J&K region. This is a Thar region, hot dry, and this is a semi-arid regions, and this is a dry subhumid region. So in India, arid region is 50.94 million hectare. Semi-arid region is the highest 122.52 million hectare. You can see this in this figure. Dry subhumid region is 75.42 million hectare, and the total dry land area is 248.88, and the total arable land, total cultivable land in India is 328.6 million hectares. So 75% area comes under the dry land farming, dry land agriculture. Okay. So what is the semi-arid is highest? I have already told you. Arid is 21% and dry subhumid is 30%. Now you see some important facts. Actually, India is getting highest rainfall on per unit area basis anywhere in the world. But the main problem, main constraint is for short duration of rainfall in here. Now 128 districts in India have recognized as dry land farming areas. Out of these, 91 districts are spread in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So, rest of the districts belong to this dry land farming system is Central Rajasthan, Saurashtra region of Gujarat and Rain Shadow region of the Western Ghats. Now some facts regarding this distribution of dry land in India. Actually, India has 108 million hectare of rainfed area, which constitutes nearly 75%. I have already told of the total 143 million hectare of arable land. We are getting 75% of arable land as a dry land in India. So in such areas, crops production becomes relatively difficult as it mainly depends upon the intensity and frequency of the rainfall. So this is the main reason. You are getting erratic rainfall, you are getting small rainfall, so you are getting the long spells of the soil moisture, short soil moisture, so it will affect your crop production. So the crop production therefore in such area is called rain-fed farming. As why? There is no facility of irrigation, and even protective life or saving irrigation is not possible. Where I have told you some states, you can take you can see some map regarding this dry land agriculture in India. So I have told you some facts, some figures related to distribution of dry land in India. Now, what are the major dry farming crops? Major dry farming crops are jowar, bajra, ragi, oilseeds like mustard, rapeseed, pulse crop like pigeon pea, gram, lentil. These all are the dry farming crops. Almost, this is important line, almost 80% of maize and jowar, 90% of bajra and approximately 95% of the pulses and 75% of the oilseed are obtained from the dry land agriculture. So we can say in a nutshell that most of our crops comes under the dry farming areas. In addition, 70% of cottons comes under this, and the 60% of rice are still rain-fed. less irrigation facilities. So these are some important figures. On these figures, on these percentage, you can decide that how this dry farming affect in India and what types of problem you can face, because the major crops depends upon this dry farming. So governments are taking major initiative to promote dry farming, because small and marginal farmers are totally depends upon this rain-fed area or dry farming system in India. Okay. Now, what is the prospectus? Actually, 75% of the peasants involved in dry farming are related to the small and marginal. So, unless and until you will not promote dryland farming, you will not improve the dryland agriculture system in India, you are losing, you are giving some downward trend to these peasants in India, because 75% small and marginal farmers still depends upon the dryland areas. So we can say that dryland farming hold a immense significance, especially in the context of fluctuation food grain production, expanding population in our country. Because this is the biggest employer. 75% people who depends upon the dryland area. So this figure is also showing that the biggest employer in our country, the cotton mills, are fed by raw cotton grown mostly in dryland area. In previous slide, I have told you that how much percentage of cotton is grown on the dryland. So biggest employer of cotton still depends upon the dryland farming. Okay, the expanding imports of oil seeds. So this figure is very important. Actually, we know that we are importing oil seeds, and most of the oil seed depends upon the dryland farming. Until and unless you will not improve the dryland farming, you will still depends upon the import of the oil seed. So dryland farming is also important for reducing our import dependence of oil seed on the other country. Okay, now so what they are doing, they are if you are improve the dryland farming for this oil seed system in India, so it will save valuable foreign exchange reserve. Now, by enhancing the productivity of the crops like jowar, bajra, ragi, which are mainly grown in dryland farming, would increase the nutrient consumption level of our nation. Why? Because less nutrition or nutrition deficiency is the problem of our country. So the crops like jowar, bajra, which depends upon the dryland area, if you will improve this production, you are going to improve the nutrition level of our countries, peoples of our country. The second, marginal lands in the semi-area regions after potential of fodder production to feed the cattle. So we can say that in a dryland area, the livestock population is also depends upon the fodder, and the fodder comes from the dryland areas of India. Okay, now the drylands area have tremendous potential of increased food grain production, enhance agricultural production, and if we increase the agriculture production on which our economies depend, so you are going to contribute, you are going to improve our GDP also. So in last, we can also say that if you are managing these dryland areas crop in a proper manner, in an effective manner, you are able to eliminate the problem of hunger and malnutrition which prevailed in the below poverty lines of the society of the country. What types of, you can say that you are improving the situation of the marginal people, you are improving the employment in which you are working in a cotton area, you are saving the foreign exchange, you are producing the fodder crops on which your livestock populations are dependent, and you are improving the nutrition level, and in last you are solving the problem of the hunger of our people. So these are some prospects and importance of these dryland areas in India. Now, what are the factors which affect the dryland farming? Actually, the low productivity of agriculture in dryland farming region is due to the cumulative effect. What are the cumulative effects? These are climate constraints, soil-related constraints, cultivation practices, and the socio-economic and the political constraints. So, in subsequent slide, we will see these constraints in detail. So, first of all, the climatic constraint. Under this climatic constraint, you will get high atmospheric temperature, low relative humidity, hot dry winds, high atmospheric water demand. Why? Because the potential evapotranspiration exceeding the precipitation during the most part of the year. Vagaries of monsoon, variable rainfalls. Why? In annual rainfalls vary greatly from year to year. Why? Actually and naturally, its coefficient of variation. I will explain you in detail. Generally, higher the rainfall, less is the coefficient of variation. In other words, we can say that crop failure is due to the uncertain rains are more frequent in region with lesser rainfall. For example, an area is getting more than 1200 centimeters of mm of rainfall. But if this rainfall you are getting for only 5 days, but you require this rainfall, continuous rainfall for 15 days. So you are getting this rainfall 10 days less, which create some problem regarding the soil moisture, and indirectly or directly it is affecting the crop production. So this is called the variable rainfall. Intensity of distribution. 50% of total rainfall is usually received in 3 to 5 rainy days. When the monsoon comes, most of the rainfall you are going to get between the 3 to 5 days. So such intensive rainfall result in substantial loss of water due to surface runoff. Just like in Kerala. Kerala is getting rainfall, but due to the flooding situation and the intensity of rainfall for a certain period, you are not able to utilize the water of this rain for the crop production. So this is also the intensity and distribution of the rain is also contributing towards the crop production, and it is affecting the crop production also. And higher intensity of rainfall is also accelerated the soil erosion. So distribution of rainfall during the crop growing season is more important than the total rainfall, which I have told you here. Okay. These are some climatic constraints also, like late onset of monsoon, early withdrawal of monsoon, and a prolonged dry spells. So late onset of monsoon and early withdrawal of monsoon is a common thing you can understand. But what are the prolonged dry spells? Actually, 7 to 10 days of dry spells may not be a serious concern. But if you are getting the break of more than 15 days, so it is adversely affect your crop production. And it will come in the situation of the drought. So drought due to the break in monsoon may be adversely affect the crop production in a shallow soil than in a deep soil. Now the soil contents are inadequate soil moisture availability, poor organic matter, poor soil fertility, and the soil deterioration due to the erosion of wind and water. These are the soil constraints. Under the traditional practice, we can see that the farmers are using some traditional practice in dryland farming area. So what are the constraints? Actually, they are using the plough with a country plough, which is replaced by tractor ploughing just prior to sowing. Ploughing along the slope broadcast seeds, garrowing, sowing behind the country plough, leading to poor as well as the uneven plant stand. Selection of the traditional variety, they are not using the new varieties of the seeds. Monsoon sowing, generally they sow the crop before the onset of the monsoon, and if the monsoon is late or early, it will also affect the cultivation or crop production. Choice of crop based on the rainfall. Generally in dryland farming, they choose the crop which depends upon the rainfall. application of the FIM in a limited quantity, hand weeding, they don't use some technique for the weeding, mixed cropping they use, and the most important use conventional system of harvesting and the traditional storage system. So these are some of the traditional practices which used in dryland farming areas, which can be replaced by some new technical practices. Now, there are some practices which can be used in dryland areas. Actually, we have discussed the technique to reduce the evaporation and the transpiration loss. As we all know that soil moisture is the most limiting factor in the dryland agriculture. So how we can prevent this soil moisture for better production, and in dryland area for better production? So there are some technique like mulches, anti-transpirants, wind breaks, and weed control. So these are some technical terms. You can expect some question: what are the mulches, what are the types of mulches, what do anti-aspirants in dryland farming, what are the wind breaks, and what are the uses, how they prevent the dryland farming, and the weed control. Now, actually about 60 to 70% of the rainfall is lost through evaporation. We all know that 60 to 70% rainfall is lost through evaporation. So these evaporations can be reduced by applying mulches. So what is mulches? Mulch is any material applied on the soil surface to check evaporation to improve soil water application. Soil water. So application of mulches result in additional benefit like soil conservation, moderation of temperature, reduction in soil salinity, and weed control and improvement of the soil structure. How? I will tell you that if there is, I will tell you in this figure, if this is the field and some cropping arrangement is done in this area, this is the crop, this is the crop, this is the crop, and this is the crop, this is the crop, this is the crop. So what about this area? This area is left between these two cropping arrangement. So evaporation from this area will be more. And by applying mulching arrangement, you are covering this area with the help of plastic and some other arrangement, and you are reducing the soil water evaporation. You are covering this area, so weed control will also take place in this area. Okay, so in this figure, actually, so what this mulching arrangement is doing, it is conserving the soil, moderation of temperature because you are covering this space. It is also reducing soil salinity and weed control and improvement of the soil structure. Now the types of the mulches. Actually, soil mulches or dust, there are various types of mulches. The first one is soil mulch or dust mulch. If the surface of the soil is loosened, it acts as a mulch for reducing evaporation. So this loose surface soil is called a soil mulch or dust mulch. Okay. So intercultivation creates soil mulch in the cropping coil. Now the stubble mulch, crop residue. You are applying the crop residue like wheat straw and cotton straw between this row arrangement. I have told you in my previous figures. So by applying this crop residue between these two crops upon the exposed area, you are also applying the mulch and you are also reducing the evaporation of the water. Straw mulch, if the straw is used as a mulch, it is called the straw mulch. Area will be same. Area will be same here. You are applying this mulch between these two cropping arrangements. This is crop and this is the area from where evaporation will be take place. So either you can apply the dust mulch, you can apply the stubble mulch, or you can apply the straw mulch. What is the plastic mulch? Sometimes in cropping arrangement, these types of plastic bags placed between the two row of the crop. And in the vertical mulching, actually what happened? To improve infiltration and storage of the rainwater in the soil, vertical mulches are formed. How they do it? It consists of digging narrow trenches across the slope at intervals and placing the straw or crop residue in these trenches. These pruned plant material is placed in contour trenches formed between the row and trench around the plants in the circle. I will tell you in this figure. This is the field. This is the crop. So this area is, so this area you will dig it you will dig it, so it will become like this, and in this area you are filling some crop residues. So this is the vertical arrangement. Sometimes you put this crop residue horizontally, but after digging, if you are putting this crop residue, so it will like as a vertical mulching. Okay. Now anti-transparents. How this anti-transparents work? Actually, about 99% of the water absorbed by the plant is lost in transpiration. And if this transpiration is controlled, it may help in maintenance of a favorable water balance. So how they do it? Anti-transparent is any material applied to transpiring plant surface for reducing water losses from the plant. In this area, you are applying in mulching, you are applying the mulch between these two intercrops. I will tell you this figure. This is the crop. This is the crop, and this is the open area where you are applying mulch. Okay. But in transpiration, actually what transpiration is do? For example, this is the water. If some heat is given to this water, it will becomes steam and it will evaporate. But in trees, in crops, this is the leaves and this is the root and this is the water. You are applying the water here. So the whatever water you are giving to this plant, it will go to the atmosphere, and the quantity of water which is going to the atmosphere is 99%. So this process is called transpiration. Generally from the leaf where stomata is available, from this stomata transpiration process is happened. Okay. I will refer to you for getting this stomatal process. You have to learn, you can see this concept from the NCERT book, science book of 9th or 10th class. So you will find that what this stomata do. Actually this stomata used for transpiration of water into the atmosphere. So in anti-transparent, what we are doing? We are controlling this stomatal process. We are creating some film, we are creating some reflective and growth retardant. So in subsequent slide, what we will do? Stomatal closing type, I have already told you that this is a leaf, here is some stomata is giving, and you are controlling the process of this stomata, opening and closing of this stomata hole. So what can be used? The phenyl mercuric acetate can be used, and the herbicides like atrazine and low concentration serve as an anti-transparent for inducing stomatal closing. Okay. Now the film forming, you are creating a film like Plasti and Nexi around the plant. So what this film will do? A thin film on the leaf surface retard the escape of water due to the formation of the physical barrier. For example, this is a leaf, you are applying a plastic or wax around this leaf. So what will happen? Whatever water is coming out from this leaf, it will reduce. So this is the film forming type. The characteristics of this film forming type anti-transparents are, they should form a thin layer. I have already told you. They should be a more resistant to the passage of water vapor. Here you are applying the film on the leaf, then it will control the water transpiration process. Now the reflected type, in this reflected type you will find that this is the leaf. You are applying a reflective on this, so whatever rays from the sun is coming, it will retard these rays. Actually what he is doing, it is providing a coating on the leaf and increase the leaf reflectant albedo. Albedo, this is coming sun rays and this is retarding back. So this reflective film, whatever sun rays is coming to this leaf, it is going to reflect from this surface, and what is happening? The temperature of leaf is not increasing. If the temperature is not increasing, that evaporation process also not happen, and it will happen. So it will happen in a very lower manner, and it will reduce the transpiration process. Growth retardant, actually what happened in this growth retardant process, it will reduce the shoot growth, but it will increase the root growth. This is a tree here. If the root will grow, then the water consumption will increase. But if this shoot will less, then the water transpiration will also be less. So we can say that this anti-transparent, which used in the form of the growth retardant, will increase the increase the root growth and decrease the shoot growth. Okay. Psychocell is one such chemical useful for improving water status of the plant, which is used as a growth retardant. Okay. Now the windbreak. What happens? We will see in this figure. These are the fields where the crops is going, and you are providing a shelter belt in the form of the trees, like here. So what is happening? If the wind is coming from this direction, 80 to 90% will reflect to this area, like this. Okay. So what happened? If this wind will reflect, it will reduce the soil moisture. How? If this wind will come in contact with this field, then the soil moisture will deteriorate. It will take some moisture of the soil with them. So what is happening? This wind direction we are reducing, we are deflecting this wind direction with the help of this tree shelter belt. We call this tree in the form of shelter belt. So what we are doing? We are doing some anti-transpiration process. In nutshell, we can say that we are reducing evaporation process of soil moisture by reflecting the wind from here. So this is the windbreak or shelter belts. Now the weed control. Actually, it is an important point. Why? Because if you will not control the weed in the crop production, so what will happen? The weed will contribute toward the evaporation process, and it will also contribute towards the lower soil moisture. So weed control is more important. Spraying nutrient. What happened if you will spray nutrient solution? Actually, there is a concept. If a urea or DAP will spray in 2% solution, so it will use quicker regeneration of the crops like legumes and crop castor after rain. So what happened? Here is a crop. Rain is fed here, and if you are giving nutrient to this crop, this crop will grow very fast. If this crop will grow very fast, so time which is used for the evaporation of the soil moisture or water from the soil will come down. So what you are doing? You are saving soil moisture, you are reducing the evaporation of water from the soil by applying this nutrient solution. Now there are some government initiative they are taken for the dryland farming in India. Actually, the government has launched a National Mission Sustainable Agriculture. It is a plan under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. There is a submission of agroforestry under the framework of National for Sustainable Agriculture, which was launched in 2016 and 17. Government is using the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana from 1st July of 2015 with the motto of Har Khet Ko Pani. There are the Agriculture Contingency Plan, which is implemented by the CIDI. What is happening in this Agriculture Contingency Plan? ICAR has prepared a district level Agriculture Contingency Plan in collaboration with State Agriculture University, using a standard template to tackle aberrant monsoon situation leading to the drought and the flood. So what is happening? Extreme events adversely affecting the crops, livestock and fisheries. So what the government is doing with this Agriculture Contingency Plan? They are controlling the floods and the drought which are adversely affecting the crop, livestock and fisheries. Now, the most important program, National Watershed Development Project for Rainfed Area. It is also important program. It was launched in 1991 and based on the twin concept of integrated water management and sustainable system. The Rainfed Area Development Program, under this program, it is implemented as a sub-scheme of the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. So these are some government initiatives which government is applying for improving the situation of the dryland farming. So friends, in this video we have discussed many things regarding the dryland farming in India, including their problem and the solutions and what are the government initiatives have taken for this dryland farming in India. So till then, thank you and happy learning. I will come up with a new video. So पढ़ते रहिए, मेहनत करते रहिए.